From the coach's office, the final edition for this season of the Pikiell Podcast, brought to you by Horizon with Steve Pikiell. Coach, how are you?
You know what? I'm great, and I appreciate you doing this all year. It gives me a chance to really talk. I never get asked the questions that I always wonder why I don't get asked. And so to be here with you and to talk about the season and to talk about, our program has been awesome, and I thank you.
I appreciate it. And so let's get into it. And before we talk about the season itself, I guess put in perspective where we're at in college basketball right now, because it is a hot button topic. It is like, it's a free for all. It's like the wild, wild west. Kids are coming and going, money's flowing. How do you even put it into words right now?
You know what? This has been like 3.5 years too of being on the calls and hearing the journey and the ever-changing landscape. And every year it gets more and more difficult, rules changes, and now we're in the era of revenue share, but we haven't really got there yet. So there's a lot of no rules, and then there's going to be new rules, coming up here, and navigating this has been, really, really difficult on so many levels, because one day you could do something, next day you can't. And I still think one athletic director put it this way: we are up in the air in an airplane, and we're writing the manual, and we need to land, and the landing gear isn't quite coming out yet, and we're trying to figure out a lot of, very difficult issues with, student visas, to paying players, to how you can, to what it encompasses. So it's a university being very involved. It's an athletic director. It's me being in the middle of, fundraising. And one thing I will promise you, I've been everywhere. This has been 3.5 years of Steve Pikiell going in every direction. If there's been something that I thought could help us with NIL, I've been part of media talks. I've been part of concerts. Like, we're going to have a concert and the money's going to go to the NIL, and I spent 6 months on that. And the concert, we couldn't get it off the ground, and meeting with people that were going to back it, and so it's been a real journey. I've learned a lot about fundraising and the difficulties that entails, and met a lot of good people along the way, and got help from some people. But it really is, collectives are what you can collect, and how you do it and how much time you spend in it has been very interesting over the last 3.5 years, and still don't quite know today where this whole thing's going. Yeah. And that's really the most difficult part. And if people tell you they understand it, they have no idea. And but it's challenging. It really is challenging, and hopefully we're headed in a better direction, where there are some rules and there are some justifications. Right now there's no salary cap. It's like unlimited. And if you don't have that unlimited resource, then you're trying to really figure it out.
It's starting, at least to me, it's starting to feel like you've got the Dodgers, the Mets, the Yankees, the Red Sox, and then everyone else tries to figure. It's complicated for sure. One of the things you just hit on, though, in terms of doing a whole bunch of different things to try and raise money, is scheduling. And so kind of take everybody through the scheduling process, because you had one of the toughest schedules in the country this year.
Yeah, and to leave Jersey Mike's is a really hard decision for a coach. We have an 80% winning percentage, around 80% in the last 5 years. So I always want to play at home. We got great fans and there's great energy in our gym. But now with the NIL rules, you need to move your team around. And if it helps you in those areas, you got to do it. So no longer do you look at your schedule as, I'm looking at my schedule to build confidence and get my team through some learning and growing pains while we're figuring things out and all that stuff. It's truly changed to your schedule, for NIL reasons. And, those aren't always, the greatest things for your team. Sometimes you're scheduling games now, you don't even know who your opponents are. And you're taking your team off the road and on the road, maybe before they need to do that. But scheduling has become more and more difficult, and league scheduling, you have no idea. So you try to balance your schedule out, and you don't want to schedule a crazy non-conference if you're going to play the number one schedule like we did this year in the Big Ten. I had no idea out of 18 teams we'd be the number one schedule, because you put your schedule out, you don't know your league schedule yet. And so I would have adjusted my schedule a little bit. I would have played some more home games had I known we were getting the number one strength of schedule in the Big Ten out of 18 teams. So, it's just become a little harder. Scheduling used to be, it's never been easy, but you used to be able to schedule to your roster and do that. Now you got a lot of other factors in. You got scheduled to NIL. You got to do a lot of different things that you have to take into account.
All right, how about the coaching staff? Any updates with the staff going into the offseason?
They're getting talked to too. I don't know the portal rules with coaches, but every year, this is one of the greatest things. I have an awesome staff. I think it's one of the best in the country. We develop players. They do a great job identifying guys. And every year, they're always trying to steal my guys. And so we've done a good job with retention. I hope we can again, but that's challenging every day too, because there's a lot of schools that want our coaches, and Brandon Knight and Marlon Williamson and T.J. Thompson and Jay Young and Steve Hain, they do an awesome job and they're wanted. So we got to try to retain them, or if they can go on to better things, I want that for them too.
No question about it. All right, so let's talk about the season a little bit. Offensively, one of the best seasons here in a really long, 30, 40 years we're talking about. I think you averaged somewhere around 78 points per game, maybe more than that because of the USC game and the double overtime. Defensively, though, admittedly, not up to your standards. How would you characterize both sides of the ball this year?
I will tell you, it's the most points we've scored in 3.5 decades. So, I always sometimes hear things and I kind of say our offensive efficiency in every category was, we scored in the 90s, we scored in the 80s. There were years we couldn't, get to that number. In the best league in the country were us and the SEC, by far the best two leagues. So people want to debate one or the other. I know we have 4 teams in the Sweet 16, and every team won first round game, which hadn't been done, in a long time in our league. And I think there were some teams that didn't get in that are just as good as a lot of those teams. So, obviously, rebounding and defense was not where we need to be. And in a league like this, in order to not finish in 11th place out of 18 teams and finish in 9th place, which was a bubble team, and 10th place, which was a bubble team, you have to be better on that. And we just consistently couldn't, put that together. Offensively, those numbers, we'll take those any year. It's been 3.5 decades since, we put up numbers like that. We were young and not ready in some areas, and that's consistency. And defense is always the hardest, thing, because college defense is different, and we are playing in an era where it's the oldest era too of college basketball. So when I talk about landscape, when you first brought that up, it's not just NIL. Well, NIL has made this older basketball because they stay now. They get paid more money, to stay. And so to have a young team, 5 out of our 12 scholarship guys, that consistency just wasn't there. And, obviously everything falls on me. I take the good, the bad, the whole thing. I could not get this young team to believe in every defensive possession. We taught the same way. We just couldn't get them to rebound as well as they'd like. But, and we got to get back to who we are, and I'll start next year. And that's starting right now with our recruiting class that's coming in and what we're going after in the portal. You got to get some guys that could do that.
So, all right, so let's talk about that then. That's a good segue. So, who knows what the roster is going to be, but you do know in terms of the kids you've recruited. Talk about the group that's coming in.
Couldn't be more excited about, the group that's coming in. They committed a while ago too. It's a top 30 recruiting class. Point guard Lino Marks, really quick and fast. And we got Caden and Chris and Javante, talented kids. Probably come in here with a little more defensive background and tough and athletic. We come a very athletic class, but great kids. I'm still trying to get that model of great kids. They want to be here, and great families. And I'm really, really excited about what they're going to bring, to us. I think people are going to love them. I really do. And they're already workers, had very good high school years, and they want to be Scarlet Knights.
That's awesome. So let's go back to now the freshmen that you had here this year and maybe some of the issues that we had. We talked about the defense. Well, one thing we know, and we've talked about this, I remember when you and Dylan came into studio with me in New York, I was talking to him about road arenas and what he was looking forward to. And he talked about the craziness of the environment. Put in perspective what it's like when in the Purdue game, the place is packed. Indiana, the place is nuts. You started for much of the season for freshmen. How difficult is that for a first time through? It's not like they're sophomores, juniors, seniors where they've seen it before. One time through, and in just crazy environments.
I mean, it was fun. When you go through it for the first time with these guys, they don't understand. And I don't think anyone truly understands. Big Ten arenas are the hardest places to win at. You know this, and I turn TV on all the time and I see half-empty arenas. You go to Oregon, it's packed, and they have 4 or 5-star kids. You go to Michigan State, it's packed. You go to Ohio State, it's packed, and they have 3 5-star kids. Not only are they impressive environments and tough to play environments, but they have talented guys too. And when you're coming to town with freshman experience and things for the first time in a newly assembled team, so even my veteran guys were first-year guys, there is a real learning curve. And I'm proud of the wins that we had, too, on the road. Like we had wins, and we lost at Indiana, but Ace Bailey had the best performance in Assembly Hall history, like as a freshman. Can you imagine going in there? And Dylan didn't play in that game. And we went to Northwestern, and Dylan didn't play in that game, and Ace had an unbelievable performance. And the games that Dylan played great in, and Lathan and those guys, exciting for the first time, but so tough on the road, and to go into those tough environments and win. And excited that we were able to do that at some pretty good venues.
No question about it. All right, let's kind of circle back to the portal. So as we sit here now, it's really crazy. You still got the NCAA tournament going on, and yet the portal's open. Last I read, there were 1,800 kids or more and counting in it. As you sit here today, what's the plan going forward for the portal?
2 days, there's going to be over 2,000 kids in the portal. Just to navigate it is very, I don't know if it's healthy for anybody either, but it's college basketball, that ever-changing landscape. For 50 years we did it one way, and now we've just, completely have changed. But, it's to the advantage of the kids. The portal works both ways. We can get some really good players, and we can target the ones that, we want. Economics is a big part of it, so you can't get everybody. And
it feels like economics is the only part of it. Outside looking in, that's how it feels.
It's a strong barometer, for what's going on, and it's good. I mean, it's just gone complete. You couldn't do these things for years, and now we've swung the pendulum the other way, and they get good opportunities, but we also get good opportunities in the portal to improve our programs. And there's plenty of teams like Missouri that went through a tough year, and then all of a sudden, they did a good job in the portal, and they changed the fortune. So you can go from season to season, and if you weren't something one year, you could be something completely different. And I love the challenges that it brings. Is it different? Is it harder? Sure, it's harder. You'd like to know your freshmen are going to become sophomores, and your sophomores are going to become juniors, and your juniors are going to become seniors. You get one team now, 1 year. That's kind of what you're guaranteed, and that's that's kind of how it is. So you build the best team, you try to get your cores instilled quickly. You hope you stay healthy. Because a big part of that is too. And so, teams that you see right now playing have been pretty lucky and fortunate with the injuries, and with some of the other teams that aren't moving on as quickly. Maybe they weren't so lucky. So you got to build your team, through freshmen. You got to build it through the development of the players that you retain, and you got to build through the portal. And we have a great game plan. We're in the middle of everything. I mean, there's 20 names as we speak that just went in that my guys will be coming down to, and you got to make the calls, and you can't spend a lot of time either once you find out what their priorities are. And the ones that you think you can get, and the ones that are good fits, you try to dig in deep and try to be in the mix. But it's like if the NBA or if any sport was everyone's a free agent every year, it would kind of be
it's crazy.
A little chaotic.
It sure is. It's funny too, because the hypocrisy With the NFL, for instance, before, years you can't bet. Betting's legal. Hey, let's have DraftKings in. Let's have FanDuel. And this NCAA stuff, you can't get them a burger. And now let's pay them. It's just the hypocrisy's nuts. All right, you've talked about Ace and Dylan. Great year for them, obviously. How about the impact that they've had on the program? Maybe some of the other players. Going forward.
I will tell you, two of the greatest kids, and they had the best freshman years. And one's the leading freshman scorer in the country, and the other's fourth. I was just on the Julius Erving watch list conversation, and to just go over what these guys have done and what they have meant to our program. Every single game was nationally televised. Every recruit that we have is an Ace and Dylan fan, and it has impacted our recruiting in so many ways. We didn't have the year that everyone predicted or everyone, but the impact that these two have made and will continue to make, because they're going to play in the NBA for a long time. They're going to be all-stars, and they're always going to wear the R, and they're going to be back here because this is home for them. Can't be understated. The cover of Sports Illustrated, the cover of Slam magazine, and the type of people they are, and they got better. Ace became a better defender. Dylan became a better defender, as good as they were, and they had to go through a lot, playing each team kind of once, and new ways to people guarded them. And Dylan had to fight through all the injuries. Ace started off, he didn't play the first two games. So they went through a lot, and their journey here is going to help them, because next year they're going to go through a lot too. They're going to be two of the youngest players in the NBA, and these experiences that they had here, and this is a home for life, will pay dividends for them, and certainly for us. When I get on a phone to a recruit, and the first thing he says is that Ace Bailey's my favorite player, gives you a leg up in the recruiting process for sure.
I'll tell you, coaches take a lot of heat, and I certainly know that. I've been doing this a long time. But when you hear a player like Dylan, I don't have the quote on me, but I'm paraphrasing in a recent article, he said 100 times out of 100 I would play for Pikes. Yeah. That's kind of cool. It's a nice thing to say.
It really is. And, coaches, we take heat. It's just the way it is. I think this society has done that, And I'm glad they're talking about us, and I'm so glad these two guys were here, because they changed a lot of things for us, moving forward. And, you don't always get the ending that you want in life. And really in basketball, you never get it. I mean, St. John's had a great year, and I'm like, he's in the Hall of Fame coach, and nobody's happy. And that's kind of how it is. You keep building a program around great kids like this that come back and support and work out and help our younger players. And that's what we've kind of done here through the years. Ron comes back and Caleb comes back and those kind of things. It's getting a little harder now because kids tend to move and have way more opportunities than they did in the past, and they don't have to sit out. But you still, even those guys that have moved on come back. And I love that. And these two guys have made an unbelievable impact on our program. I'm thankful for all the players in the program. I've said this from day one. I'm thankful for the kids that picked Rutgers, because in the past, they didn't have as many opportunities. Now they can leave every 15 minutes. So just thankful for the guys and the work that they put in this year to make this a great environment and to continue building Rutgers basketball in the best league in the country, or arguably the top 2 league in the country, as people often remind me. But when you coach in this league, you'll probably say this league is the best league, because you have to go to Nebraska sold out. You have to go to Oregon sold out. Now we've added UCLA. Now we've added Washington, tough place to play, as you know, SC. So it really is, challenging on so many levels. And I'm so thankful for the kids that picked Rutgers and stayed here and swung punches for us.
Well, you've got a lot of work to do. I appreciate the time as always. How about we'll do this in maybe 6 weeks or so, kind of get an update on where things are at. And I would tell you to enjoy your off season, but there is no off season.
No off season, but that's
enjoy
good.
A day here and there if you can. And
Hopefully.
Thanks for everything this year as always.
Thank you.
That'll do it for another edition of the Pikiell Podcast, as we kind of put a bow on the 2024-25 season, sponsored by Horizon.